All right, guys. So basically, me and Johnny are talking, and we come to a realization that there's so much that happened on race week that the the cameras just couldn't catch. Just we don't have a camera out all the time. There was just crazy events and stuff that we're going to break down and talk to you about here today. And also, there's just so much we learned from race week that we don't explain in the videos, because while you're getting punched in the face, you don't want to talk about getting punched in the face, right? So basically, we're going to talk about it today, and we're going to break down our first drag and drive event experience, what we thought about it, and things that we could potentially do in the future moving forward. I definitely think there's another one in the cards for us. We'll just kind of dive right into it. So day one, we show up at the track, we tech in. My buddy Dodger is like, dude, this car's going to go. This car's going to go fast. And it's making a lot of power. The car should go fast, right? And we're like, I'm a little nervous because I'm like, I've never had a car this powerful or whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to let nobody down, and I ain't no punk. So I went out there and I sent it on an 18-second rip out the gate.
Showing everybody what's up, you know?
You got to let them know who the boss is right after.
Yeah.
I realized the kind of pressure building up into the first pass on a brand new car. So this isn't like some car that I've done a million hits on. This is my first hit on this car, and it's at race week. And I don't know the brakes because I haven't driven the car that much. I don't know the steering. I don't know the throttle inputs. I don't know the clutch inputs, let alone the fact we had to step down to a less adequate clutch just to try to make things happen. But rolled the beams on the first hit and sat there for something like 5 seconds, and then just gave it everything and blew through the clutch in 5 gears. I thought, dude, this is weird that it's revving out in 4th gear. Go for 5th.
Yeah. No kidding.
And I pushed through the clutch in 5th gear, and without rolling through the beams for that long, it probably would have been like a mid 13-second pass. Still not great, but not an 18 either. So I think looking back at it though, that first pass set the tone for what race week was going to be for us. And
yeah, it set the tone for sure. It also, what it did, and what I thought was, it gave us what we expected. We expected to have issues. We expected to, we're like, oh yeah, right on. Okay, yeah, we better, do some tuning, turn some wrenches, make sure everything's dialed in, stuff, just the easy stuff. But little did we know that we had quite a bit of left in store for us when it comes to the struggle fest.
So like we were saying, that we kind of knew that, like, yeah, we're going to have to do a little bit here and there, but a little wrench in, maybe a little tune in, but we're going to get through race week. It'll be all right. Well, the first hit right out of the gate let us know that this car just will not perform with the clutch that's in it. There's just short of, we went to the motion tent. They don't really deal in clutches. They do mainly automatic stuff. I reached out to a couple class sponsors just to see if anybody could get us clutch by the time we got to Colorado, right? We have a killer clutch sitting at the shop back at the house, but we need basically the bell housing we have is an 1/8 of an inch too short. So we got a scatter shield bell housing, which is the correct depth that will allow us to run that style clutch with a throwout bearing. It comes in the day we leave. So day one, pass one, right out of the gate, we know that the car's already, the motor's already surpassed anything that the clutch is capable of. There's no such thing as a good pass coming out of this car at these power levels. So we say, okay, well, I'll baby it out of the hole. And then I'll just really lean on it third and fourth gear, and we'll see what happens. I won't try to drop the clutch in first gear. So we went to make a second pass that night because we don't want to finish night one with an 18-second ET. And to this point, that's all we know is, okay, the clutch is a weak link, which we kind of knew going into it. So we go back up, we're in the staging lanes, stage the car, and we make another hit. And I think we did, was it like a 13.5 or 13.7? It was somewhere in the 13s.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm down at the end of the track. I'm like, dang, this car's hot. This is the first day. And I lost the belt. It's on the racetrack. That was like last pair of cars to go down the track. Uh-oh, is my speaker cutting out? Like last pair of cars to go down
I don't
the
know,
track.
but I just know I ran a long way looking for that belt. Trying to find that belt on the track.
So we find the belt, we get the belt back on, and we try to drive it back to the hotel that night. We switch back over to street trim, and we go to drive to the hotel. Well, our voltage was wacky, right? And the coolant temps were just up, and the coolant temps have never been, now granted, I haven't put hundreds of miles on this car, but I've never seen the coolant temps up over 210.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like steady over 200 to 220. And it's like, dude, this thing ain't cooling off. What's going on? Well, the next morning, what we find out is when the belt chucked, it pulled the cable off of the alternator, the trigger cable. And so the fans weren't coming on, and we're at cruising speeds, and the belt was potentially slipping because we've stretched the belt. And so day two, in the parking lot, we go, all right, well, we got to fix the car before we can go on the road. So day two, we go to fix the car, and it's a relatively easy fix. We call the Napa right up the street. Hey, we got a belt in stock, or O'Reilly's or wherever. We walk up the street, get a belt, come back, put it on, and then is when we find out we have the alternator issue. Fix the alternator issue, right? And we get the car running, and we're like, okay, here we go, we're good to go. Drive the car to the gas station, fill up with gas, get us a nice cold drink. And this is the first time, we didn't know it yet, but this is probably the first time the fueling issue reared its ugly head, and we didn't know it. I remember I'm sitting in the gas station, and we're both in the car. We got the gas topped off, and I'm going to start it, and it's taking just a little longer than it normally would to start. And you go, like, come on, like, start up, and it fires up, and we're like, okay, yeah, we're good. And we had no idea that the fuel was already hot after like 7-8 minutes of driving.
Wouldn't it start when we were trying to refuel? It was like kicking back the fuel, wasn't it? Like cutting off, like.
Okay, so on the GTO, I use the factory fuel tank to save time and money. And so I gutted the factory fuel pump, and I just did a vent off the top of the fuel pump and ran it out the trunk down to the bottom. So whenever you fill the car up, when it hits all the way full, it would shoot a little bit of fuel back out that overflow. So you would know it was full when the tank shut off and like 50 cents worth of gas hit the ground. You hear clunk, and we go, there it is. It's full. It's okay. It's full. We could probably both speak a lot to both parts of it, but Johnny was the navigator.
Yeah, sure. So I was the navigator, right? And it's, out my phone trying to figure out, the best way to get to where we're going. And but to just kind of start this off, like a lot of my family had asked, like, oh, is it going to be fun? What do you? And I just like the whole time, just everything I said that in the back of my head, I just was like, yeah, it'll be fun, but it's like I don't think fun is the right word, right? I think it's going to be an adventure. And boy, let me tell you, day two, what were we about? Maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half away from our hotel, and we're on the side of the highway for no joke, probably 5 hours, just getting destroyed by flesh-eating flies, and they love to get on you and eat you. And I just knew then I was like, yeah, this is what I was talking about. It's not fun. It's an experience, right? There's an adventure involved. But I just know that we tried all, well, let's let it cool down. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's try that. Oh, hey, what about that? What about this? Have some people drop off, help us out, give us water. And we're just struggling, just going. I just remember Joey looked at me and be like, dude, I think this is it. I think this is where we call it. And I said, okay, well, if we call it, what do we do? I was like, how are we gonna get back? And he's like, I guess we gotta thumb it, dude. And like maybe my mind was into like, why the F did I come out here? This is so dumb. Like this is not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to like struggle with mechanical wrench turning, like, oh, maybe we gotta drop a transmission, maybe we gotta change out some tires, or just some random stuff, not just, well, we can't make it work because it feels too hot, or whatever we were thinking the actual problem was at that moment, where there is no solution. You just got to give up and go back to the trailer. And that's when we had the individual come in, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'm sure you'll talk about it. And he's just like, dude, what's that?
Go ahead. I'm gonna look him up. I think I got him now. I think his name was.
He worked with Holly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had seen some issues with the mechanical fuel pump, saw some issues we have, and that's where, Blaine Bison, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
And he saw some things, and that's also when a hooker was underneath the car, and he's like, hold on a minute, the pulley's spinning, but the pump isn't. We're not even attached, so we're just free spinning this thing. Like it's not even pumping fuel, and that was like a side issue. I mean, the main issue was the fuel was too hot, but now we were at a point where we weren't even pumping fuel. So they concoct something and throw an Allen wrench through some keyhole and throw some stuff on there to keep it in place. And it could spin at I don't know, probably like 12,000 RPMs, and it's just doing its thing, and that got us, because the fuel was cool, that got us off the road. And because we were driving into the evening, we were able to actually put down some miles. But I can tell you, I've had plenty of cars that have issues, or just little things that you worry about, and the pucker factor is through the roof. And there's no shortage of pucker factor the entire time we were in that vehicle. Just like, oh my God, dude, are we gonna make this? Is we gonna do this? Are we gonna be stranded? Where are we gonna stop? What's the next step? And it's just constant. But in the end, it's like, yeah, we didn't get those times that we wanted, but we got the adventure we were looking for, or at least we deserved that, I guess.
Yeah.
Rookies on the.
There's a couple of things I want to chime in and say. One that was really funny. I remember the first time we're driving 16-gallon fuel tank in this car. We just topped it off at Great Bend. We've been driving for probably an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 20 minutes, right? It's early in the morning. We've got probably 75, 80 miles behind us, and the car stutters. We're driving, and it stutters again. And I look at Johnny and I say, man, we got to find a gas station. like pulled it up. He's the navigator. I'm like, find me the nearest gas station. I think we're either running out of gas or we're vapor locking. And Johnny goes, man, I don't know which one's worse. Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, they're both pretty bad.
I would have rather got 9 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
We were getting about 20 miles a gallon, but it didn't matter because we spent a fortune on ice.
That's true. Oh man, the consumable of ice was through the roof, and it was just the littlest band-aid on a major artery bleed that we just were like, come on, ice. Maybe they'll give us another 30 minutes of driving. But all it took was one stoplight, and we were that was it. We were done. We had to limp it to wherever we could, if not push it.
So we found the best Band-Aid that we could find was to keep the hood off and to drive at night with basically cool air rushing over the rails, heat being able to escape the engine bay from every direction.
Yeah, the ground is a little cooler probably.
The ground was definitely cooler at night. So we never really had an issue. Maybe we would have an issue restarting at night, but driving, even if we hit a stoplight, as long as it wasn't like back-to-back stoplights, like through town traffic, we would normally do all right at night. One thing I definitely want to point out about day 2, and Johnny will speak more to this, is a little piece of advice: bring a pistol.
Wait, what? Bring a what?
Bring a pistol.
A pistol. Yeah. Yeah. Come strapped.
Do you? So we're driving, and like Johnny was saying, it was, that first drive day, we were on the side of the road for 5 or 6 hours before we finally got that car running again. And I mean, I don't just mean like side of the road. I mean, flat state, side of the road, 20-mile radius of view and not a tree in sight, dude. All you could do was sit in your car and get eaten to death by flies and just sweat. There was nothing else you could do. So it was pretty miserable. But because we were there for so long, that we made it to the next town. We stopped, we got some dinner because it was just that late. And we left there and we made it like another 15 miles before the car overheated again, and we had to pull the hood. And once we pulled the hood, it actually did a lot better. But we stopped in some small town where we're already in Colorado. I haven't touched that thing in forever.
God, I can't remember. I just remember it had like a neon blue letters, like for the town sign. I'm like, oh, that's fancy.
Man, I don't remember the name of the town, but so we're rolling through the town, and there's another guy in the stick shift class. He had an RX-7, and he was at the gas station, and we passed him and we beeped and we waved. And then I'm like, dude, I'm pretty tired. Let me just pull over for like 5 minutes. We've been at it for 18 hours at this point or something crazy like that. I don't think we got into like 3 a.m. that first night.
Yeah, no, it's something like that. You said you couldn't see straight anymore.
Because I can't see straight.
Like, man, brother, I can't see straight. I got to pull over. Like literally pulled over an abandoned gas station under some lights where the crickets were just going wild. There's just so many bugs everywhere. And he's just like, I don't care. I'll lay on this little mat and take a nap. So I just shut the doors, right? You go off in the distance, I shut the doors. And it wasn't long after that before what happened. You were the one that witnessed it.
Oh, I get up and I have my little racer mat, basically that you just lay on to work on your car, but it's all I had. So I get back up and I'm like, dude, screw it. And as I'm getting up, I see a car pull in. And I'm like, it's like it looks like a Mustang or something. It wasn't a Mustang though. It was a Mercury.
Yeah, it was like a Crown Vic or a Marauder or something of that nature, like
Yeah.
a 4-door sedan.
Yeah. So I'm like, huh. The guy, I just thought, well, we're not the last ones. There's someone behind us. So as I'm walking up, I realized, dude, this car isn't affiliated with RaceWeek. There ain't no banner on it. There ain't no nothing. You know what I mean? The windows are just blacked out, but we're under like an overhang at a gas station. Gas station's closed, but all the lights are on, so you can, like, it's really well lit. So I'm like, oh crap, dude. And I know the car's not going to start because it was hot. So I'm like, dude, I just looked at Johnny. I'm like, dude, give it the giggle juice. And that's what we were calling, like basically a shot of starting fluid in the vacuum hose, so that it would just bump the motor over and create enough fuel pressure once the pump got spinning fast enough. I'm like, dude, give it the giggle juice. And I just ran back to the trailer and I threw the mat and I look up. And as I'm like trying to shut the trailer, I look up. There is 4 dudes in this car. Like they were there to jack us. They were there to steal our car, take whatever we had with us. They've been watching cars come in and out all day long. It's 2 a.m. and we're the stragglers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're broke down up the street where nobody's watching. And I'm like, oh God, dude. And I mean, we just barely got the car running. And I'm like, get in the car, and it's like, I got the thing in gear already. And these dudes are like, you could tell that they were like, they showed up there to take what we had.
Right. Yeah. They were scoping the scene, and we got out there just in the nick of time.
And instantly we think, dude, do you have a pistol? Just like, no, do you have a pistol? I'm like, we're idiots.
Yeah.
Dude, we're driving this. I mean, money isn't everything, but there's a good bit of money wrapped up into a race car, right? So you're driving this huge investment down the road with nothing to protect yourself or your investment. And not only that, but you're driving an investment that breaks down every 30 minutes. Like,
and there's a good chance you probably got a couple bills in your wallet. You do have some cash to throw out of it. It's like, but I mean, that's for the ice. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, if you take that, I can't buy ice. So this is just day 2. This is travel day 2. And I think we finally roll in at like 3 a.m. and we're just beat. And we just go straight to sleep. And I think we didn't wake up until, like, we showed up to race like maybe a little late, but we already knew we were only going to make one pass every day because of the clutch. So we're like, there's no point. We're just in survival mode. We just need to get to the track, make one pass, and leave. So going into day 3, we've learned that we should have brought a pistol. We're making too much power for the clutch, and there's absolutely nothing we can do to stop the fuel from boiling.
Yeah.
On the side of the road. All we can do is band-aid it with ice and time and try to make it another 30 miles. So
we get an early start, but that was tough because we were showing up to places very late. And so it was kind of like, it was just a continuous battle.
So day 3 at Pueblo, which, if you like Pueblo, no offense, but had to be the worst pit area of any drag strip I've ever seen. It was just dirt and gravel. That's all it was. So we're working on the car and we think, dude, I just have this little radium regulator and maybe the regulator is just not strong enough. The spring's getting so hot that the spring is getting weak and it's losing pressure because of the heat, because it doesn't have a beefy enough spring. So my regulator ties right into the end of my fuel rail. And so we go to the motion tent and we think we're going to get a better regulator. We're going to get an air motive regulator on this thing, and it's going to fix our problems. Well, to run this air motive, we have to put it right on the end of the fuel rail. So I need a -8 ORB to -8 ORB, and then a cap on the other side, and then I can run my return. So we kind of fabricate something, we make it work. I'll probably drop a video in here. We make it work. And I start the car up and it's running, and the regulator, and I get the pressure set, and it's going good. And I just let it sit there and run in the pits. And it's running and it's running. And eventually it's not making fuel pressure. The car dies, right? And so I try to start it back up, and I realize that it's the same issue. It's not the regulator. It's actually just the fuel being too hot. So now I have this air motive regulator, which is neither here nor there. But I'm like, dude, I'm just tired of working on this thing. The car fell off the jack in Pueblo because it's just dirt and gravel. So you're just trying to jack it up carefully, and it just slides in the gravel, and it bent the radiator. Luckily, we didn't spring any leaks, but it did bend my radiator in my intercooler. It's just the worst pits you've ever seen. And I'm just tired of working on it. We made like a mid 13-second pass there too. And I just say, dude, screw it. Let's go home, right? We're not making a second hit. We're not fixing this car here in this parking lot at the pits. Let's just go home. So we try to go home, and we didn't make it out of the park.
Dude, I asked, I said, is it raining? He said, no, it's not raining. I was like, there's something spread. Dude, is that fuel hitting the windshield? He said, no, it's not. Because in the back of your head, he's like, let's just let this mother burn, dude. I don't even care anymore. I'm done.
Dude, that's how, at that moment, that's how I felt. So this new regulator, the fitting that we made, of course, this is my fault. This isn't a fault on air motive or any of the fittings or anything like that, but it's just trying to make an air motive regulator work on the end of a fuel rail when you have a throttle body and a valve cover, and you can't completely clock it, but you get it as good as you can. It didn't work, right? So it worked for the hour it sat there, it ran for 30 minutes, it did whatever. And then as soon as we go to leave, and I don't know if it's the vibration from the road or what, it just starts spraying, and I'm just like, dude, let's just drive it home. I don't want to work on it here.
We were so ready to get out of those pits and just
the
day because.
Dude, end of the day, Pueblo was a nightmare. I'm like, let's just drive it home. And luckily Johnny talked me into, dude, we can't do that. We'll fix it real quick. So we hop out, he gets in the trunk or the trailer, starts getting all the tools I need. And we did get the regulator swapped pretty quick, but it's just a huge inconvenience. Spend 3 or 4 hours swapping a regulator, to have to swap it back, to have the same problem with both regulators, to just the constant struggle. So other than that, that day was pretty uneventful. Well, I guess I wouldn't say it was uneventful, but did a pass, worked on it a lot, but it was just a drag day, and we got to go back to the same hotel that we were at the night before. So it wasn't bad. We had to make it like 10 or 15 miles, and we'd let the car cool off for a little while, and we knew we would make it. So go back, go to bed, and I think the next day we did get an early start because we had to go through the mountains, right?
Yeah, that's where we headed towards Vanderveer, because I remember, although it was a crappy racetrack, the hotel was really nice. But then we went to Colorado, to Vanderveer. It's like better racetrack, crappy hotel. But I just also know that that was the realization that is like, we're going into survival mode. This isn't about cutting any, we're not, like you said, it's like, we're not trying to burn any records down. We're not like, we're just going to try to get to the end of race week one day at a time. Just like, and that was kind of the realization at that point. But yeah.
And to be honest, Bandamere, the drive to Bandamere was easy, all things considered. So we left pretty early and we got up there in elevation, and we were able to, because we were going up a mountain for a good bit of it, we were able to just kind of hammer down in like fourth and fifth gear instead of just cruise along. And we were able to use more fuel instead of returning the fuel. So we're just like keeping fourth gear and just keep things screaming 70, 75 miles an hour of some of these hills. And honestly, the faster you went in this car, the better it performed. So to go 50, we would burn the fuel in 30 minutes. If we were doing 80, we would make it 90 minutes, you know? So
Yeah.
we wanted to go as fast as basically the speed limit would allow us to go. And on some of these roads, it was 55, 60. But once we got up there and some of them 2-3 lane roads going up the mountains, we were in the fast lane passing everybody, which is really what saved us. I think we stopped and we made it all the way to the first checkpoint without stopping, got a picture, made it back to the gas station, put ice on it, filled up. And that was another thing we realized. We're like, if we can run this thing as low as we possibly can on fuel, when we fill up, the cold fuel will counteract all the hot fuel in there. But if you're putting 2 gallons on top of 12 gallons, not going to make much of a difference. You're putting 12 gallons on top of 2 gallons, huge difference. So we did that. And then we made it all the way to Bandamere, stopped at a restaurant, got something to eat. We're having a pretty good day. And then we rolled into Bandamere. Pretty much no issues other than the basic Band-Aids we knew. Take the hood off, throw ice on it, drive down the road with ice on it, whatever. Got to Bandamere, and we pulled a spring out of the wastegate to try to make less power. We're also at our highest elevation, pulling a spring out of the wastegate to make less power. And we just feeling good because we had a good drive day. And we think, dude, this is it. We're making a lick today.
This is a good place to be.
Yeah, mentally, it was a really good place to be until the Christmas tree went green. And that thing popped and banged and sputtered and just went from, just kept dropping fuel pressure and coming back, and just the whole way down the track. And I was probably, in hindsight, I should have just lifted after I rolled the beams because it was just that terrible of a pass. What would we run, like a 15 something?
Yeah, I don't remember the times because they were so like uneventful, but
it was bad. And this is kind of where I've hit a realization with this car is that one thing that would have helped us tremendously, and I hope to find a solution for in the future, if we could spin the pump and circulate the fuel while it's parked, it would make a huge difference because you got all this fuel line up against the ground just getting hot. The fuel line's resting against the motor getting hot. The return line, probably not that hot. Smaller line tucked up a little higher. The fuel in the tank, you know, we got the trunk open, canopy over it. We got fans on it. But all the fuel is just sitting where it's sitting. So we throw ice on the rails.
Right.
And we
chill without running the motor.
Yeah. So we throw ice on the rails and we chill the rails and we chill the regulator, and you know that might be good for 30 seconds. But then that hot fuel from the feed line is coming. And you're not going to be able to cool that off quick enough. But if we could have spun that pump and kept that fuel circulating while the car was sitting still, we might have been able to chill all the fuel and actually made a good pass at Bandamere. But unfortunately, that's one of the things we learned that day was it doesn't matter how cold you get the rails or how long you let the car sit. there's hot fuel buried somewhere in this system and it's making its way to the rails. Even if the hot fuel is in the return side, it's going to go return side tank into the feed line back to the rails. The hot fuel's coming no matter what you do. And you know, the car had been running for 30 seconds or whatever, you know, just long enough to get up to the line. And honestly, the oil probably wasn't up to temp. The coolant was. I remember I wouldn't run it unless the coolant was at least over like 165. But here comes the hot fuel, and it just botched the whole run. So
yeah, because we really chilled about half a liter of fuel, like really chilled about half a liter, and that was gone within seconds. Because when we were at Bandimere, I mean, it was like 100 degrees.
Oh, it was hot.
It was like we were trying to protect the fuel tank and not let it didn't matter because the ambient temperature was so high that just the fuel in the lines was already at a close to a boiling point as is, being that it wasn't even pressurized. So it was like we were dead where we stood. Like it was just kind of there wasn't a lot we could do unless it was nighttime cooler temperatures. That was it.
And that's kind of something that I wanted to point out. Again, I know we've already said it, but that, you know, in your street car or whatever, you have an electric tank in pump, first of all, on every manufacturer made car since EFI. The fuel pump being submerged in the fuel already keeps it cooler. I have a mechanical pump mounted to the side of an already hot engine. So my pump is already hot. Your in-tank pump pressurizes fuel all the way. And just fluid mechanics will tell you that anything under a vacuum will lower its boiling point. Anything under pressure will raise the boiling point. So you're not going to have this issue in a manufactured car. Also, most fuel systems, I want to say all fuel systems, but I can't speak for every manufacturer, are returnless. As in, like we have a return style fuel system, and most race car drivers or aftermarket enthusiasts will have a return style fuel system, but other vehicles don't, like your factory, whatever. So you're not returning unused fuel back to the tank because you're also not creating more fuel pressure or more fuel volume than you need because they manufactured the pump to supply and demand, right? So you don't have hot fuel coming back to the tank. And those are all huge issues we had. Hot fuel coming back to the tank, pump externally mounted, nothing was under pressure, it was all under suction. Name of the game, right?
Yeah.
I think the next day, so we went back to the hotel that night, and I think it was pretty uneventful getting back to the hotel because we come to the realization that we're not fixing this car. We're just going to do what we got to do to get to the end of race week. And so the next day was the 480-mile drive, right?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Dude, what a day. So I think we left pretty early and we made it. Dude, we made it a good ways without stopping. Yeah. And we finally, we stopped at a gas station, or we seen some gas stations. I'm like, dude, the car's still running. Let's just keep going. So by the time the car started to stutter, and once it starts to stutter, you know, like, hey man, we got 10 miles or less to find a spot. Yeah. So Johnny finds us a gas station, luckily on the route that we already have to be on. And it is just a gas station in the middle of a dust bowl, in the middle of nowhere. And all they have is pump 85.
It's a lot like Balad. If anyone's been to Iraq. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, a lot like Iraq. And we get there, and I mean, I just told the lady when we got there, I said, hey, listen, we're about to be here for a minute. can I start a tab?
Nice.
And she let me start a tab, and we bought a tarp and we covered the engine, and I had a little Milwaukee fan I brought with me. So we started pointing the fan at it, and we decided, dude, let's change the pump pulley, because after the second day when the key went out, I messaged Motion Raceworks and I said, hey, I bought this pump kit off of you, not to say it was their fault or my fault or whatever, but I need a Woodruff key. Do you guys have one? He goes, the only one we have is on the stand, on display. You can take it. And my pulley got all gouged up. And he goes, you can take what you need off of the display. So, I appreciate that. So the next day 3, I got those parts off of him. And we just left the Allen key in there, because we're like, that thing's holding on. So we just left it in there. Well, day 5, I think it is at this point, we're broke down. It's the middle of the day. It's going to be hours before this thing's cooled off. And we're like, dude, what the heck? Let's try to put the bigger pulley on it, because it went from a 50 to a 56 tooth pulley. And we're like, that'll slow the pump down. It'll slow the fuel down, and we'll be returning less fuel. Not the fix, by the way. But we spent a couple hours sticking with this thing to find out that no matter how we configured the belt tensioner or the pump, and we had to move the wastegate downpipe, that there was nothing we could do to get this belt to fit that pulley. We got it on there, but it's so tight that it's like, dude, that's gonna snap the belt, and then we're straight up out of luck. So we messed with that for a couple hours and ended up having to go back to the 50 tooth pulley with the Woodruff key this time, and we used some Loctite, and it's still holding today. It's still on there. And I think we just eventually just bought some ice off of them and hit the road. And we made it into, well, town was what, 30 miles away?
Yeah, it was a far.
And we made it maybe like 22 miles. And this time, though, we broke down under a tree, which is huge. If you're going to break down, break down under a tree. Dude, I remember it was sputtering. I'm just like, dude, I could see a tree like a mile and a half out. I'm like, dude, we're making it to that tree. Like, we're going to get to that tree, brother. I ain't stopping in the sun again. I'm already red like a lobster.
Yeah, trees were hard to come by out there. They were hard to come by. It was like, this was a random house that had some trees close to this road, and the sun was right where it needed to be, so that we could pull over right where, and we just have semis flying past us for the entire duration that we're there. It was crazy, but it was definitely so much better than being stuck out in the sun in the dirt or with the flies. It was way better.
Yeah, just it's the little things in life you learn to appreciate, like shade. You're just like, whew, man, this is, you know what? Being broke down ain't that bad right now. Even though we're only 8 miles from being able to get food, and we're completely out of ice. Who knows how long it'll be before we can get there. So
is that before we got to the next gas station or the next checkpoint where we met the locals?
Oh, dude, that was the last checkpoint that day. That was before.
Okay.
So
talk about that.
So we're we get the car running again. After time, it cools off enough that we give it the giggle juice and fire it up and hurry up, get in here. And then you get it moving down the road with some air whipping over it. And we got to a car wash, and we were able, okay, well, let's wash the motor down and cool everything off and let it sit here in the shade. And we realized one of our trailer tires is pretty well bald. So we went to a parts store and bought a spare tire that we were going to swap at a later date. And then we just went up the road and got something to eat, filled up on gas, got some more ice. And I think we sat down to eat, and we sat down for so long that it was pretty close to being nighttime, and we didn't really have any issues after that. We were able to just push through the rest of the way because it was getting dark out and it was cooling off. And So the next leg of the journey coming out of that town in Nebraska, I believe we were already in Nebraska, was the last stop on our 480-mile drive. And it was, if I had to guess, most people probably made this checkpoint somewhere around 3 or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
It was a good 11 o'clock at night for us.
We were bringing in the rear.
We were I mean, we were there, we were so late, and I guess 3 or 4 because I watched 1320's video and they're interviewing people at this checkpoint and it's daylight for everyone, right? And it had been dark for hours before we even got there. And when we got there, there were some locals sitting out there, and one of them said, "You're getting in kind of late, ain't you?" or something like that. And I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna kill you. Dude, tell them about the way."
From what I can see, is there's some dudes hanging out in the truck bed, just waiting to see some cool race cars go by. Right, we pull up, we gotta get the photo, so that we can continue forward. And before a hooker can like kind of get settled in the seat, they're up at the window, just like, "Hey man, this is a pretty sweet ride. What you got here going on? This and that." And he's just like, "Yeah, having some issue with the fuel, so we gotta go." And they're just like, and then what did the dude say? He said, "Oh, what did he say?" He said, if you see the lights, but what was the highway?" He said, "Oh, you gotta head up."
Dude, I forget what highway we were on, but he's like, "You're going up the road, you got to turn on the highway 72 or something like that."
Yeah. But if you see the lights, you better shut her down.
He's talking about a police officer. He's like, "If you see headlights coming, shut her down." And his buddy, dude, it's funny because it's just like these drunk hillbillies basically having fun on a Wednesday night getting drunk. And he's like, "If you see lights, you shut her down." And his buddy's like, "Man, shut up." They're going to a racetrack. He ain't racing on the streets.
You can just tell they've been drinking gin like all day long,
Dude, shut up. And
like,
dude, what's so funny is we built a whole character around this guy over the next couple hours in our drive. We're like, dude, he's married to the other guy's sister, and he's seen lights one time and he didn't shut her down and he went to jail.
Yeah, and that's how he
That's
is.
how he knows.
Because you got to know when to hold him. You got to know when to hold him.
You got to know when to
shut her down.
There might have been a theme song involved.
Yeah, oh, we definitely have some songs going.
So, and then we got in real late then too. But the next day was just a race day. So hotel, race, back to the same hotel. Which was my favorite days, honestly, because we woke up and first thing we go out and we're like, "Dude, we got to change his trailer tire. It's showing cords, literally showing cords." And it's just like, dude, this thing's going to kick our butt 8 ways from Sunday. So we take the valve core out and we just hold on to each other's shoulders and we jump on it and we break the bead.
Dude, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was like, no,
Johnny was fighting me on doing it the whole time. So
I've dealt with small tires, and I felt like every time I have small tires, I'm just like, the struggle on such a small tire is just out of control. But yeah,
so we bounce on this tire and it just breaks the bead. And we just take 2 screwdrivers, like bloop, 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 and it comes right off. And I just pour some motor oil on my hand, rub it on the bead, and just plump, plump, put it on, get the sun gel out, air it up. And it's just like, dude, how simple was that? It took like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was out of control.
That little backstory to this next piece. So every night, like, because the car's having a hard time running when it's hot and we're coming from a racetrack. So it's like we would have to like DoorDash food or walk across the street to the nearest gas station or whatever, right? So I said, after we changed that tire, I said, dude, that might be the easiest thing we've done on this trip so far. And Johnny says, that was even easier than getting food.
And that's saying something. When you talk about DoorDash to your hotel, that tire was probably the easiest thing we had dealt with. It just worked the way it was supposed to, you know?
It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Well, like I wish everything was as easy as that tire. So we just said, screw, we got in so late that night, we slept in the next day, changed the tire whenever. And I'm telling you, the car got progressively worse. And I don't know why, but it's even now, it's progressively worse than when it first started. And this is probably because when I first started driving the car, it was like at night with the hood off, and now it's got the hood on and it's daytime and the summer temps are up a little bit. But so we're like, dude, we're not going far. Let's leave the hood on it. We left a bunch of stuff in the hotel room. And so we just try to zip down to the track, and it's like 15 miles. And we made it like 7 miles, and there's a railroad crossing. And the signs are coming down, and I'm just like, no. And I just zip it left up an alley or something, and basically just try to outrun this train and then cut across the tracks again. And we made it. We were able to like outrun the train and cut across the tracks and keep going. And we made it all the way to the track, and then the car died at the track. So we knew we were going to have to let it chill for a while at the track. But there was no ice. They were sold out of ice. So we're like, well, it's just going to have to sit here for a long time at the track. So we waited until basically dark. And I think we were just so fed up with, we knew that it wasn't going to go fast. So we just only changed the rear tires for safety, just to have some traction. And we just left the stock fronts on it. And we went out and we ran a personal best that day. And not that we set the world on fire, but my personal best in the car previously was like a 10:57. And we went a 10 or a 11:57, and we went in 11:40 something. Which I was just so happy to finally have had a number that I could say, well, at least the car is faster than it used to be, right? Like at least I could say that, even with the fuel issue kicking our ass, pushing through the clutch in almost every gear, at least it's faster than it used to be. But we went back and we looked at the time slip, and we just started crunching the numbers, right? And we were like, well, when I ran the 1150 in Vegas, I went a 1.660 foot or 1.7. I went a 1.760 foot. And on this pass, I went a 2.15 or something like that, almost a 2.260 foot. So it's like, dude, if I had a good clutch and that thing would have 60 footed, and I mean, not even wringing its neck, just a decent launch on the gates, a clutch that held, and a fuel system that didn't leave us hiccuping and stranded, it would have been a mid 10-second pass. That's just what the car is capable of. Once I get the clutch back in it, which we have the parts to do now, and once I get the fuel system figured out, like that's where the car should start. Yeah. We'll be able to turn it up from there. We'll be able to put it on some corn and turn it up. So we were back on top, baby. I mean, we just felt so good. So we loaded up and we're like, dude, it was a hell of a night. We go back to the hotel and we're just happy. We get some sleep. We wake up the next day. Can't find the keys to the trailer. These are my motorcycle keys too. My trailer and my motorcycle. So my motorcycle keys and the trailer keys are on the same key ring, and we can't find them. So we drive back to the track the next day. We're like, dude, they got to be at the track or something. We can't find them. They weren't at the track that we could find. We walked around for a while. And so we went from the track. I think we went back to the hotel after that, checked the hotel again. Well, now we've been looking for these keys for so long, we didn't get the early start we were trying to get because we've been looking for the keys. Well, we ended up never being able to find the keys. I never did find the keys. I came home and had to buy a new key for my motorcycle, and the trailer is still clammed up outside. Well, if I can't get the trailer open, I can't get the tools to take the hood off. And if I can't get the tools to take the hood off, I can't get the heat out from under the hood. So I'm like, dude, this sucks, but it's only like 180 miles or something. I'm like, let's just go. Dude, I think the last day kicked our butt more than anything.
Yeah.
It fought us literally to the finish line. I mean, we made it. We did make it to the first checkpoint without stopping. Drove past the first checkpoint, just recorded us driving past it. We checked with the officials. They said, yeah, you could do that. If the car's having issues, we just need to know that you were there. Made it to a gas station in the next town or whatever. And we were stuck there got pizza at the gas station. We were stuck there for 2 or 3 hours. And then we left there and went to the next checkpoint. Got a picture at the next checkpoint and then tried to keep going. And we broke down the side of the road, waited for a while for it to cool off. We made it about 9 miles after that time. It started to break down. I could see a tree off in the distance. I'm like, dude, we're making it to that tree. Well, it was in somebody's driveway. So we asked them for permission. They said we could stay there. We were stuck in someone's driveway for a couple hours. And then we're like, dude, we're only 12 miles from the track or something like that. We'd broken down 2 or 3 times already at this point. And we made it within 2 miles of the track and it overheated again. And we were just like, dude, this is so defeating. So it's like 7 p.m. This is the last day. The big guys, they're like prepping the track for the big guys to come out and make their top number hits. You know what I mean? And here's the guy that's going to run a bottom 13, and I ain't even going to get off my street tires this time. I'm just going to go up there and be done. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, dude, I don't want to come in and ruin the track for everybody. But what do you do? So somebody was nice enough. They seen us struggling, broke down. They went out and bought us some ice, brought it back. We iced the motor down. We walked to McDonald's, got something to eat, came back, made it to the track. Like literally rolled in, dropped the hitch, just set the trailer off to the side. And then Johnny runs up to the lanes and just pulls all the bags of ice off at the lanes, just chucks them on the ground beside it, just shuts the hood. I'm already in the car, ready to go. And I just stayed out of the groove. I just rolled right in. I mean, it was perfect. It was like stick shift class was going up. All the stick shift cars had gone. I just rolled right in. And we didn't have to stop. Just dropped the trailer, chucked the ice, rolled right into the lanes, like a 13.7, and then the car died at the trailer. We got lucky. The car died at the trailer, and we finished race week.
That was it, dude. That one felt better. Didn't know if we had done every track, struggled all the way through, burnt through probably 500 pounds of ice. Dude spent more time on the side of the road than we did on the road.
Dude, I mean, the drive every day should have been, with the exception of the 480-mile day, that probably would have been a 10-hour day. But the drive should have been between like 4 and 7 hours. I don't think there was a day we were on the road less than 18 hours. I mean, we were just sleeping on the side of the road, to be complete. Like the car would overheat and we would just get out like our racer pit mat and just lay down in the dirt and just sleep there. Like, this is where we sleep in the sun. There's no shade. Like, and if you could find shade, like we did a couple of times, but a lot of times we were just like, this is it, dude. And if we don't sleep now, we're not going to get sleep at all. So you either
call the hotels, making sure they don't sell or get rid of our room.
Yeah, hey, just so you know, we're going to be rolling in 3 hours before checkout. Don't let our hotel room go.
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
dude, if I could, if anybody stuck along this far to hear about my race week experience, first of all, thank you. To hear about our race week experience, me and Johnny. First of all, thank you. Second of all, if I could give you any advice, I was not the only person having fuel heating issues. There were some of the big dogs who have been doing it for years who are out there having fuel heating issues. So look into what it takes to mitigate that. I could not get any bags of ice on or around my fuel tank because of its location. I could not spin my pump because it's mechanical the way I got it mounted. If I had an electric pump, I probably could have turned it on and cycled fuel. I did not have the proper feed lines or return lines, which we're fixing all that. And I'll talk about all that in a different video, but do your research. That is the number one factor for me. And I've seen a lot of other people having this problem. And if you can run ethanol, that'll dramatically increase your boiling point. So run any amount of ethanol that you can when you can. So if you can get a car tuned on flex fuel, anytime you see ethanol, throw as much as you can at it. So that's another thing I'm working on now is flex tuning my car. Bring a pistol. For sure, you want to be able to protect yourself. There was day 3. We had a checkpoint at the Petrified Woods service station or something. I wasn't there. What happened to you there?
It was, yeah, the checkpoint was some petrified wood building of whatever. And at that point, we cut the car off and it was like, well, it's going to be here for a minute. So you ran off to find a gas station, use restroom and stuff like that. And I just hung back with the car and I'm just standing there and I just, from a distance, like I'm already feeling a little weird because I'm in a place that I don't know, stuff like that. But I just hear someone yell, "You better get away from that car, B." You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna demonetize the video or anything like that. But and I was just like, "Oh my god, dude! Like this is like I'm being threatened at a car, like, and I have nowhere to go. It's not I could even start the car and go anywhere. Like I was just stuck. I was like, I'm not feeling it. Like, please don't come and try to get me away from this car. But it was just, it's just things like that. You just like, what do I do in this moment? Like, because if this individual really felt a certain way about what I was doing, just standing there, it's like, how am I going to explain this situation? You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, just being aware of this, the fact that you might be stuck in a location that isn't optimal for your situation. And, I don't know, it's like, I didn't bring a pistol because I flew to Utah and I didn't bring it up to you, whenever we left, but it's definitely some type of defense, I would definitely advise to
even if
have something.
Yeah.
Any day, baseball bat, just, mace, whatever, at least something to be like, well, at least I can defend myself because if there's a group of people, like, I mean, I got some karate skills. They ain't that good,
Number one, though, I would say fuel system, because if you can keep your car running.
That would be ideal. If you can continue down the road, then for sure.
And number 2, just be able to protect yourself and your investment if should something arise. And we were like almost at that point a couple of times. And probably just because we were always coming in late in the dark at night by ourselves, broke down. But not to say it couldn't happen to anybody else. Yeah. Also, I know it kind of ties into the fuel system, but try to run some kind of flex that'll allow you to dump ethanol anytime you get a chance that you can find ethanol, just for the simple fact that you might get less fuel mileage, but it will increase your fuel consumption, which will dramatically lower temperatures. And it also already has a higher boiling point. So I don't know. Race week was awesome. I loved it. I wouldn't say it was fun, not this time around. Maybe in the future we'll have fun with it. As a couple of rookies who were definitely very green to the experience, we got everything race week could throw at us and then some. I can guarantee it. If there was anyone broke down more than us that finished race week, I want to know about it.
Yeah, yeah, and like, you know, we saw some individuals with like transmission issues and stuff, but it's like all these issues were able to be handled. Some maybe on the side of the road, but it was the issue and it was taken care of, and then they moved forward. Where our issue was every single day within, you know, a couple hours of starting the vehicle, and then every 45 minutes after that, it was just like continuous. And
Yeah.
I mean, the mental fortitude that we were using.
Yeah,
I know you said it is like, you're like, dude, I'm just happy that you were able to stick with me during this and not just kind of, you know, call it quits and be like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. Because it's like, and that's what I said from the beginning. It's like, I wasn't in it for the fun. I was in it for the adventure. And part of the adventure is it's what makes it exciting in the adventure is the fact that we had struggles. And I feel like that was very exciting in its own sense. However, I cannot wait to be on another race week where our struggles are cutting a good 60 rather than
yeah.
hitting the road at 4 a.m.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to some of the better struggles. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for sticking through the video. Give us a like, a comment, subscribe, thumbs up, whatever, all that YouTube algorithm stuff. Help us out, help us grow the channel. We're over 900 subscribers. I'm trying to get it to 1,000. So yeah, appreciate you guys, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Yeah, hey, remember, you see them lights, shut her down.
Shut her down.